Family cut me off as I married outside my community. They came to seek help when cousin got jailed. I, 36 female, was cut off by my family for marrying a white guy. It sounds ridiculous, I know. My husband's side of the family was in disbelief too, but this is what it is. It's been 7 years since then and now they've shown up asking for my help to bail out my cousin. I was born into a large, tight-knit Hispanic family where community is everything. Every Sunday, we spent crammed into my abuela's little house, eating tamales and arroz con pollo, while my aunts and uncles gossiped in rapid-fire Spanish. My parents couldn't stress enough about the importance of family unity, preserving our culture and how we had to stick together no matter what. And most importantly, we should always remember where we came from. But of course, that unity came with conditions. You were only truly part of the family if you followed the unspoken rules. Respect the elders. Prioritize family over everything. And most importantly, never go against tradition. That last one was my downfall. 10 years back, I met my husband, Sheldon, at a law school. We were from different streams. I majored in corporate rules while he pursued criminal laws. It wasn't love at first sight. It was more like love after a few months of late-night study sessions and shared coffee runs. He wasn't just my partner, but my best friend. When I told my family about him, I didn't expect the level of hostility I got. My mom's face dropped like I told her I was moving to Mars. She exclaimed, "How would you adjust with him and his family? How about our cultural difference? Our values? How will your kids even know where they came from?" My dad chimed in saying, "You know we have a good reputation amongst them. Do you want to be disrespected and ridiculed your whole life?" I was like, "Relax. We're not even engaged and you guys are stressing over the kids' upbringing." One more thing about my family. We're not well off. I'm not saying this because of the bitterness with my family, but it's the truth. Most of my family members are indulged in farming or fishing. In our generation, only 3 of us got a master's degree or even a college degree. The rest didn't go beyond high school. None of my female cousins have a professional job. They either are stay-at-home moms or work low-paying jobs, and their husbands are also not so well-to-do that everyone loves them. Why? They're all Hispanic and they are not mixing their race. For my parents, it didn't matter that I had chosen a well-educated guy for myself. All they see is ethnicity. I tried to explain how Sheldon was the best person for me. We belong to the same profession, hence we are more empathetic to each other. He loves and cares for me, and most importantly, he respects me for who I am. He comes from a good family background. What else do you need in a partner? And as a parent, what's important to you? Hollow pride or your child's happiness? Sadly for my parents, it was the former. My mom even tried to set me up with a lot of guys from the community. A single guy she knew of, she would text me the details. If I ignored, she would send sarcastic comments my way that I was being brainwashed by Sheldon and that I had already forgotten my culture. She used this term, whitewash by your white boyfriend, which I felt was so offensive and derogatory. It got so annoying that I muted her message and stopped visiting home even during the holidays. Sheldon's parents know about my equation with my family, so usually I ended up spending the holidays at his place. When he proposed, I didn't bother telling my family about it. I knew they wouldn't be thrilled. It didn't matter that my husband was fluent in Spanish, loved our food, and made an effort to understand my family's traditions. To them, he was an outsider and my relationship with him was a betrayal. Sheldon wanted to meet my family and give a shot at bonding with them, but I didn't want to put him through this. I knew my family very well. They would go nuts and wouldn't even hesitate to throw sarcastic comments right on his face. So I better shield him from them. When we planned our wedding, I battled a lot with my thoughts about whether should I tell them now or let them find out eventually. I had this long discussion with Sheldon and he pointed out that I wasn't doing anything wrong. So why do I need to hide? I should rather be truthful to myself and them. I called up my mom and told her about our wedding plans. I was expecting a storm but didn't anticipate it to be so ugly and destructive. She absolutely lost it. She asked me to quit my job and move back home ASAP. I said I wasn't 6 years old who would follow her like a puppet without thinking about myself. She tried her best to persuade me to cancel the wedding. I ignored her and continued my plan. Despite that, I dropped an invite to my parents, my brother, and also some of my cousins with whom I thought I had a good bond. My family freaked out and said I had already started behaving like whites who invite their parents as a guest to their weddings and don't involve them in the process or the decision-making. My mom told me over the phone that if I went through with the wedding, I'd be dead to her. My abuela cried and said I was bringing home shame to the family. Even my younger brother, who I'd always been close to, stopped talking to me. They didn't care about my happiness or what I wanted. All they knew was I was diluting my culture. We had a small beautiful wedding in a park with his family and a handful of friends. My family? Not a single one of them showed up. Not even my cousins. For the next 7 years, I heard nothing from them. Not a birthday text. Not a single call. Not even when my husband and I bought our first home or when we had our daughter 3 years ago. It hurt, but over time I learned to let go. I had my own family now and they gave me all the love and support I needed. But a few days back, out of nowhere, my mom called me. At first, I thought it was some kind of scam. Her number hadn't lit up my phone in years. Against my better judgment, I answered. She skipped the pleasantries and went straight to the point. "We need your help. It's about Nico." Nico's my cousin from mom's side, the golden child of the family. He was the firstborn child of our generation, and, hence, always has been the center of attention. He's the one who could do no wrong even when he did plenty of wrong. He was spoiled rotten growing up. And when he got older, he took full advantage of the family's tendency to sweep his mistakes under the rug. This time, he'd messed up big. Nico had been arrested for stealing from his employer, something about forging checks and embezzling funds. He was facing serious jail time and my family was in a panic. They needed a lawyer who could present his case and save him. I was stunned. 7 years of silence. 7 years of treating me like I was dead to them, and now they had the audacity to come crawling back, not out of love or remorse, but because they thought I could save their precious Nico. I replied coldly, "I don't understand. Why are you calling me? Can't his father afford to hire a lawyer? What are all the tas and toes, uncles and aunts, who rally behind him in all his life? Can't they pitch in?" Mom replied, "They've done what they can, but it's not enough. The matter is complicated, so we need you to jump in. You're family. I know we've had our differences, but family helps each other. Nico needs you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Family? Now I was family? Where was this loyalty to family when I needed it? She snapped at me and said, "Oh, you're still brooding over it. This is not the time to bring out past differences. Stand up for your family." I just hung up the call saying, "Sorry, I can't." When I told Sheldon about the call, he was livid. "You don't owe them anything. They threw you away. And now they think they can just waltz back into your life because it's convenient for them? Absolutely not. Don't you remember how much you missed them when you were pregnant and how much you needed your mother when our daughter was born? But none of them showed up despite knowing about our child." He's right, of course. However, the call has rattled my childhood memories. I can't stop thinking about my abuela, how she used to make me my favorite food whenever I was sick. I thought about the Sundays at her house, how the whole family would laugh and joke like we didn't have a care in the world. But then I also remember how easily they cut me off. The truth was their love came with conditions and I wasn't willing to meet those conditions anymore. While I'm determined not to help them, I can't stop thinking about my family. This hasn't happened in many years, even not when they cut me off. Just wanted to see if this is normal or has happened to anyone else too. How do I deal with it? I don't want to bring this up with Sheldon because he might get the notion that I want to help my family. I don't. I really don't. Your mom's call wasn't about reconnecting, apologizing, or even trying to mend the relationship. It was about convenience. They want your help because you're useful to them now, not because they've had a change of heart about how they've treated you. That's not real love or remorse. It's manipulation, plain and simple. Update 1. Thanks for engaging in my post. Just on the day I posted here, I got a call from my mom again. I declined the call and sent a text that I cannot help and she should stop bothering me. She didn't take that well. She said this was the first time they had ever asked for help and that too I'm refusing. She said I was running away from my responsibility. I could have ignored it but decided to shoot back. I said my responsibility is only towards my husband and daughter, not to you guys who cut me off because I chose my happiness over your hollow pride. She got furious and accused me of being selfish and arrogant. She said, "You've changed. You're the same person I raised you. You became one of them, mean and cruel. Your success has gotten into your head. You've forgotten your roots and where you've come from." That was not it. After that, the calls and texts started pouring in from all directions. My aunts, my uncles, and everyone tried to guilt-trip me into helping. Nico's sister read, "What would your daughter think of you turning your back on your family?" That one stung, but I held firm. Another voicemail from my older cousin, who I hadn't heard from in over a decade said, "Nico has made some bad choices, but he doesn't deserve to go to prison. You know how the system treats young men from our community. You and Sheldon can help him. You don't even have to pay for a lawyer. Just represent him yourselves. Please, we're family. I'm not sure if you know this. Nico has 4 mouths to feed. He has 3 children. The youngest one is barely a few months old. You can't imagine their misery. How can they survive without their father?" I deleted the message. I didn't have the energy to explain to her that being family was a two-way street, and they'd barricaded it years ago. My father was silent in all this because Nico is from my mom's side of the family. If there was someone from his side affected, he would have rallied just like Mom. Even after the heated exchange, my mom didn't back off. Instead, she doubled down. She dropped her dramatic voicemail, sobbing about how I was letting her down. Apparently, she had assured Nico and his family that I would be advocating his case and save him from prison time. Not my problem, right? She was like, "Do you want your cousin in prison? He's young. His life will be ruined. And I'm begging you as your mother, please help us." That line hit me hard. As your mother. For years, she didn't care about being my mother. She didn't care when I got married, when I graduated from law school, or when I gave birth to my daughter, and now she suddenly wants to evoke motherly affections. I sat with the voicemail for hours before I finally called her back. I said, "For the last time, I'm repeating, I'm not going to risk my career for Nico. Consider me out of this drama." She called my names and said I was acting like a stranger. I shot back, "And you treated me like one for 7 years. Where was all this family loyalty when I needed you? Where was it when my daughter was born? You chose your pride over me, and now you want me to clean up your mess? I don't think so." That shut her up, but only for a moment. Then she said something in her icy voice that left me stunned. "You owe us after everything we did for you. Raising you, feeding you, putting you through school. You owe this family. We sacrificed so much for you, and this is how you repay us?" I laughed bitterly at her and said, "I paid for my own college. I worked hard for the partial scholarship and paid off the remaining through my job." She hung up, saying talking to you is like beating a dead horse. I blocked her from everywhere. For a moment, I thought that would be the end of it, but I underestimated how relentless my family could be when they wanted something. 2 days later, Nico himself called me. I didn't recognize it was him until he introduced himself. It was an overly humble tone. He said, "I know we haven't talked in a while, but I need your help." Hearing his voice made my stomach churn. He'd always been the golden child. While I was busting my butt in school to earn scholarships, he coasted through life on favoritism. The family always had his back, no matter what, and now they expected me to do the same. His father bought him a house so that he could live comfortably with his family. One of my uncle's friends pulled strings to get him a job where he siphoned the company's money for his personal gain. I cut him off in between and asserted, "I'm sorry, Nico. I can't help you." He quickly exclaimed, "But you're a lawyer. This is what you do." "I made a mistake, okay? I'm sorry for whatever happened between you and the family, but that's got nothing to do with me." I calmly replied, "You're right. It doesn't, but I'm not going to put my career and my family on the line for someone who never cared about me until he needed something. Did you ever have my back? Then why should I have yours?" He pleaded, trying to guilt trip me. "You're really gonna let me get rot in prison? What kind of sister does that?" I snapped. "The kind of sister who's done being taken advantage of," and hung up. It has been silent since then, and I hope it remains that way. You did the right thing by blocking your mom and standing your ground, OP. You're not a doormat, and you won't be guilted into sacrificing what you've built for their convenience. Update 2. Sorry, I couldn't make an update earlier because of legal and safety concerns. After the direct confrontation with Nico, I thought the drama had finally died down, but I was wrong. If there's one thing my family thrives on, it's creating chaos. It started with a knock at my office door. I was in the middle of reviewing a case when my assistant buzzed me to say I had a visitor. To my shock, it was Nico's wife, Claudia. She wasted no time laying it all out. "Nico's situation is worse than we thought. The DA has evidence of more than just embezzlement. They're looking at fraud charges, credit card scams, fake accounts. He's looking at years in prison." By now, I had become so cold that I didn't even pretend to care. I replied, "So what? And what does that have to do with me?" She said, "They're offering a deal. If he cooperates and gives up the names of the people he worked with, he could get a reduced sentence, but he doesn't trust the public defender to negotiate it. He needs you." I was awestruck at their audacity. So this wasn't just him being reckless. This was organized crime. Claudia hesitated, which told me everything I needed to know. I asserted, "I'm not touching this. Not even with a 10-foot pole." She got frustrated at my response and asked, "Do you even care what happened to him?" I snapped at her, "Do you even care what happened to me? You want me to put my career and my life at risk? No. Find someone else." Later that evening, Sheldon got a call from an old law school friend who worked in the DA's office. He casually asked if I was representing Nico's case. Sheldon's jaw dropped and he inquired further. He informed us that Nico's mother had been going around telling everyone I was his lawyer. Hence, he thought of cautioning us against it because it was not good for my reputation. I couldn't believe it. Nico's mom was using my name to buy him time. I immediately called her up and confronted. Without even exchanging pleasantries, I jumped straight to the point. There was a long pause before she said, "I only mentioned it to a few people. The DA was pressuring him and I thought I cut her off in between and screamed. You thought you could manipulate me into taking the case. Do you realize how much damage this could do to my reputation? To my career?" She pleaded. "I didn't mean any harm. I just thought if they believed you were helping, they'd back off." I hung up on her, threatening to take action against all of them. The damage was already done. Rumors spread quickly, and within days people in the legal community were whispering about me representing my cousin in a criminal case. Sheldon and I had to issue a formal statement to clarify that I had no involvement in Nico's defense. It was humiliating and I was furious. Then the real bombshell dropped. One evening, I got a call from an unknown number. When I picked up, a man's voice greeted me asking, "I hear you're connected to Nico." I asked who he was. He said, "Let's just say I'm his business associate and he owes me a lot of money." Chills ran down my spine. I asked, "What does this have to do with me?" He said, "Since you're handling his case, I was wondering maybe you can help me settle our financial dispute and also represent me in my Ronin case." I hung up immediately. I was completely shaken by that. When I told Sheldon, he was furious. He asked me to distance myself from all the family members and block all their contacts as it was getting dangerous. I had already blocked most of them.